Lohan Doki says she wants to know more about MATLAB for a specific field. We will not focus on that today, but if you need more information on applications for your field, we will share our contact information. We will send you additional information if you just drop us a mail. And if you, for whichever reason, want to have, for example, a meeting in which we introduce you in depth to the applications for your field, we can do that. We are always happy to talk to you. We are always happy to get together with 3, 5, 10, 15 lecturers, professors, researchers, and just discuss and explore how MATLAB will benefit your research. Yeah. So this is just to set the right expectations for today. With that being said, I see that the recording has started. And let's just start with introducing ourselves. I'm Andreas Weidlich. I've been working for MathWorks for 4 years now. I've been in touch with Hazem for quite a bit in the past. We've organized different events. He has helped us making some of the tools available for you on Moodle, for example. And that's why he reached out to us and said, hey, Andreas, we have a new tool called MATLAB Grader on Moodle. Would you be able or would you be willing to help us introduce this tool to our faculties? And we said, yes, of course we are. And that's why I also invited my colleague Andreas Apostolatos. And Andreas, I don't want to take away from your introduction, but you are not just a math worker, but you are, of course, a lecturer at TU Munich with an extensive experience of teaching with MATLAB. So I think you're a great fit for today's session. And with that, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Well, that's such a kind introduction, Andreas. Many thanks for that. As already my colleague said, I'm also working at the MathWorks. My role is called the application engineering education, if you will. And I'm the technical point of contact for any questions that arise at your institutions. So as Andreas already said, please feel free to reach out to us anytime for any question you may have, and we will schedule a follow-up meeting with you as needed. So we don't have to speak about everything today. Today is just an introduction to Grader. On the side, I'm also teaching at the Technical University of Munich. I'm teaching courses in advanced numerical engineering. And obviously, I'm using MATLAB and Simulink for the teaching purposes there. Among others, I'm also using the Grader, which I'm going to discuss today. And therefore, I also included a few slides in my presentation that have to do with my own teaching. So you actually get an idea on how to perform teaching using our tools. I actually come from Greece, Athens, but I live in Germany, Munich, Germany. And yeah, that's a nice international tone in the discussion. My background is in applied mathematics. I did my PhD or my doctoral studies in numerical or computational engineering. And I still work part-time in the same department as my colleague said, teaching there. So that's all from my side. And I'm looking forward to actually get to meet you better and discuss with you.
Before we start and before Andreas jumps into the topic of today's session, I would like to just mention some very, very important resources that will help you get started with MATLAB. And I do that by sharing my screen. Just give me a second. The first thing I want to mention is the MATLAB portal, because that is the easiest way to activate the license for MATLAB and to get access to all of the resources that we talk about today. Some of you will probably know this already, but I have the feeling some of you may not. So let me start there. So here, this is the MATLAB portal for your university. I will put the link in the chat, but you can also find this link on Google. You will just need to put the, no, I will put the chat in the link in the chat. It should be fine. What I wanted to say to highlight is you just need to click on the sign in to get started button, and then you need a university email address to create a new MathWorks profile. And then once you have completed this process, you go to the mathworks.com page and you log in with your university email, with your password, and there you can download MATLAB, Simulink, over 100 toolboxes and all the other things that are available in this license. That's the first resource. The important thing is you can use this, your colleagues can use this, and your students can use it, and nobody will be charged because Everything has been provided by the Egyptian Russian University already. Yeah, for you it's free. That's the first point. The second point, if you or your students want to get started with MATLAB, I want to point out that we have what we call a online training suite. These are online self-directed trainings for you and your students. So if you want to learn more about MATLAB, I don't know, let's look at the homepage, which courses exist here. You say, I'm working with image processing. I want to know more about app building with MATLAB. I'm working with AI or other deep learning, machine learning, right? I need tools, I need input, I need to understand how toolboxes, how specific functions work. These courses will introduce to you to this topic, and they are all free for you and your students. And just if you never used MATLAB before, what we recommend is to start with the MATLAB on-ramp course. As you can see, rather short course. It's meant as an introduction for people who never used MATLAB before or never coded before. And again, great starting point. You can see you can see the curriculum here. You see that we really start with the basics. And if you open this, what is nice, it's modular. And then you don't watch a video, you don't read a PDF, you actually work on an example, on an example in MATLAB online. It's a MATLAB online instance that we are using, and you are asked to utilize MATLAB in order to solve these things, these tasks that we assign. And it's very hands-on, very practical, and it gives a basic introduction to MATLAB. Just let me add here. This is what I wanted to show you in case you're not aware. As you can see, it really starts out simple, just asking you to use MATLAB as a calculator, and I will input here a wrong answer, right? And as you can see, it's interactive. It gives you a hint that this is wrong. Yeah, as you can see, if you progress here, the tasks become more complex. You learn how to assign variables and so on and so on. So these on-ramp courses, really great resource if you want to introduce your students to MATLAB. Don't spend time in your courses doing that. You can leverage these courses. Yeah. So exit course. Maybe one thing that I want to say, if you successfully completed a course, what you can do is to share a copy, a certificate. You can generate a certificate yourself and share this either, let's say, on LinkedIn, or you can also ask your students to hand in this certificate to demonstrate that they have completed the task. Now, we will have a look in Moodle because Hazem was so kind and implemented this course, these courses in Moodle. So if you teach MATLAB using a Moodle course, you can leverage this tool directly in Moodle. The students can go to your course and start the courses there. You can assign the courses there, and you can also see which of your students completed the homework. You can do that all on Moodle, and it's also compatible with the gradebook. And Andreas, I think you can have a look at this in a bit, right?
That's correct. Thank you, Andreas.
Okay, perfect. For now, this is the courses that I want to mention. You have access to this. And then the third thing I wanted to highlight when it comes to teaching is on mathworks.com, which is our big company page. If you click on the Learn button, you will find this link here, Teach with MATLAB. If you click on here, you will find quite a lot of resources that are available, and that includes a little bit about MATLAB Grader, but it has more options. It's especially interesting if you want to learn more about, for example, offering extracurricular activities for your students. If you're interested in organizing a hackathon for your students or a small challenge or a competition, you will find a lot of projects here that you can access. And as you can see, you also have access to things like, using the MATLAB Live editor for creating live scripts and so on. So if you have a bit of time, if you're interested in improving your teaching with MATLAB, you may want to check out the Teach with MATLAB section. And then maybe the other thing I want to highlight, we may not have a lot of time to go through all this, but if you are interested in, what MATLAB can do for your field, what you can do is to go to our solutions page, and there you have an overview of MATLAB features that will help your field. And I'm mentioning this because I think we have a page for medical devices, for example, which probably goes into this idea of dentistry, right? So if you're interested in that, you may check out the solutions page, look for keywords or for fields that are of interest to you. And then as you can see, you will find a couple of topics. You will find a couple of free resources here. We have, for example, AI for medical devices and digital health, a small ebook, and other things as well. So if you're interested in exploring that, feel free to check out this page. Or again, I cannot stress this enough, get in touch with me and Andreas. We are really, really happy to organize a demonstration or to just talk about what MATLAB can do for you. Yeah. All right, Andreas, this was the very small introduction about some of the resources that we have. With that, I would like to ask the professors, is there anything you want to know at this stage? Does this make sense? If not, I would hand over to Andreas because, again, we wanted to have a look at MATLAB Grader today.
One question, Andreas. We want to know how to include courses from MATLAB to our subjects. This before grader, if you can.
You want? Can you repeat the question, please?
We have two plugins we add to our models, MATLAB Grader and the other for the courses. What? Yes, yeah. I want if I want to add courses to one of my teaching subject, how can add this activity to this subject?
If I understand correctly, you're asking how you can add assignments on Moodle to Grader or to your courses?
I want to add one course from MATLAB to any subject I teach to my student. How to can add it?
On Moodle.
Let me to share what I want.
Yes, please. And Andreas Apostolatos, maybe we can have a look together and just check what the goal is here. Yeah.
I share
okay.
now. Yeah. If I want to add this tool to one of my subject, I will press here.
So Tamer,
what I can do to include this to my subject? What other steps? And what I can do with this plugin?
Can I take over the question, maybe?
Yes,
Andreas,
absolutely.
if you don't mind. So, right, what you're doing there is the right workflow. You added an activity on Moodle. You just have to give a name now. So, if you don't mind sharing your screen again, we can do it together. It's very easy. So I can show you. Would you mind?
Andreas, can you repeat again?
Can you please share your screen again?
Yeah. On a moment.
Take your time, no worries. Okay, so exactly, you have to give a name there. Whatever name you want to give, it doesn't matter. Just call it whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And then you should save it. Exactly, and display. And now it's going to ask you to select a course. So you have to press on open a new tab. And these are the self-paced courses that Andreas was mentioning before. Now you should add a course. And you have the full flexibility here. You decide which course makes sense for you.
Yeah, I will give assign course such as this. Assign.
That's it. Done. All done. You go back to Moodle.
This all thing?
Yeah.
This course is added now to this course?
Exactly. Exactly.
Let me see that.
So just go back to Moodle. Exactly.
My subject.
Exactly. Tamer,
This?
can you also add yourself, make yourself a student? If you go to the top right of Moodle on your picture and you click on your picture.
Here?
Yeah, exactly. Just switch role.
Oh, switch role as a student?
Exactly.
As a student.
And then please try to click on this, what did you call it? AAA or something?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, student will click here and start to learning.
Exactly correct. That's right.
Thank you. Thank
Perfect.
you. Nice, nice.
So Andreas, I do believe you will show this in Moodle anyways with Grader, and I think it's very similar for OTS and the Grader, how to add this to courses, right?
That's right.
The only thing that you have to keep in mind if you want to use the OTS, please make sure that students have a MathWorks account, otherwise they won't access this online training. If you use Grader, they don't need a MathWorks account. But as you're teaching with MATLAB, they should have a MathWorks account anyways.
That's actually a great point. Using Grader, MATLAB Grader within Moodle, you don't need your students don't need an account. But to use the online courses, your students need to make an account for MathWorks. That's a great point.
All right. So we have another question by Dr. Ammer, I think.
Hello. I want to ask if I can integrate this courses in another or Microsoft team. Can I do this? And must pay my faculty must get a license for MATLAB or just for free?
So can I
integrate this such as first? Can I integrate this with Blackboard or Microsoft Team or not? Can I integrate?
Andreas, can I take Dr. Ammer? We understood. Yeah, Dr. Ammer, we understood the question. Andreas, I would like to answer if you don't mind. We can integrate MATLAB Grader in all. We can integrate MATLAB Grader in all learning management systems, including Moodle, including Blackboard, including Canva, including other options that are on the market. If you are interested, I suggest that you reach out to Hazem, and Hazem and me, we can make this tool available for you on Blackboard. It's not a problem. For teams, it is not possible to integrate MATLAB Grader. If you want to use MATLAB Grader in a team environment, what you can do, and let me just share my screen. So we have a hosted version of MATLAB Grader. That means if you go to, let me just remove this here. If you go to Google and you type in MATLAB Grader, let me type it in, MATLAB Grader, what you will find is a MathWorks platform where you can log in. So it should be this site, grader.mathworks.com. You just need to log in with your MathWorks account. And what you will see is this interface. And you can then create assignments here in MATLAB Grader. And if you want to use MATLAB Teams, you can you can literally create a course here, and then you can invite students to your course. Let me open an example course here. Here, you can then invite students. Am I silly? I don't see this. I'm not the instructor probably for this course. But what you can do is you can invite students here if you're the instructor, and then you can, if students join your course, they can work on the assignments in this interface here without Moodle, without Blackboard, and you can use Teams as an additional resource for teaching your course. I hope this makes sense. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions at this point? If not, Andreas, I think you have a more systematic introduction prepared. Please go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Andreas. And thanks everybody for being here. I'd like also to actually beforehand to extend also my gratitude to Hazem for this excellent support while we were designing this workshop here. So Hazem, many thanks for doing that. And let me start. So I called this online workshop or webinar, whatever you want to call it, a flipped classroom with MATLAB, because I don't just want to show you how to use the grader. I would like to also show you an application of grader in a particular teaching format, which we call the flipped classroom. My name is Andreas Apostolatos. As I said before, I'm a senior application engineer in education at the MathWorks. I'm located in Munich. And let me briefly start with the agenda. So, or before the agenda, actually, even better, curriculum vitae. So a few words about myself, so you know who is my background and what I engaged so far with and what I'm doing currently. So I obtained my diploma in applied mathematics with specialization in applied mechanics and statistics from the Technical University in Athens. That was in 2009, 2 years ago. Then I had a semester abroad, actually a year abroad in Czech Republic, Prague, where I actually worked on my diploma thesis on contact mechanics. And afterwards, I came to Germany, and I'm still in Germany today. I started with doing my master's studies in computational mechanics at the Technical University of Munich. That was I concluded those in 2012. And then I finished my PhD studies in a similar topic, that was computational engineering at the same department, again at the Technical University of Munich. And then I stayed another 2 years there as a postdoc. So I was working on some papers, some teaching activities that I was not able to do during my doctoral studies. So I was concluding a little bit my studies. And then it was until 2020, where I actually started working at the MathWorks, as I said before, and I'm still at the same role today. And since 2021, I'm also a guest lecturer and guest researcher at the Technical University of Munich, again in the same department. So you see, I didn't really change a lot of departments at the university. I'm still at the same place. All right, so that brings me to the agenda for today's talk. I'm going to start briefly to show you how interactive notebooks can be used as teaching materials. And those interactive notebooks are the so-called like MATLAB live scripts that are created using the so-called MATLAB live editor. I'm going to give you an introduction to those, and then I'm going to show you how you can actually use those for your own teaching activities. I'm going to then proceed to the so-called flipped classroom, and I'm going to explain briefly what the flipped classroom mean. And afterwards, I'm going to also show you that in use, so how I am applying that in my own lectures. And then I'm going to actually go into the auto grading using the MATLAB grader. For this, I'm going to discuss briefly the standard and the automated approaches for grading, which is quite important just to get an idea why we're even doing all this. Afterwards, I'm going to show you the instructors, the learner and instructor's view of the MATLAB grader, so you get an idea what your students will be seeing while they're working on that. Oh yeah, absolutely. I will speak slower. Thanks for the pointer. And the last thing with respect to the auto grading using the MATLAB grader is going to be the integration of MATLAB grader in Moodle via the so-called LTI 1.3 interface. So Hazem has already done that for us. Hazem, many thanks once again. You don't need to know a lot of things about the integration itself, how to integrate it. I just want you to know how to use it. That's the goal. And finally, I would like to also talk or guide you through some practical examples in Moodle and also answer some Q&A questions. Therefore, I was hoping for today that you also have some exercises from your own lectures that you would like to convert into auto-graded exercises. Now, if you have such exercises already at hand, that will become handy later on during the Q&A session, where I'm going to ask you to try to implement those in Grader. And I'm going to guide you through and, of course, support you and help you, me and Andreas. So you just let us know in the chat. Okay, that's the agenda. And that
Andreas,
supposed... yes.
Andreas, one thing. If there are questions, remember you can either put them in the chat and then we can go through them at a good point in time, or just raise your hand and we will interrupt so that we can answer them directly If we are too fast at any stage, remind us. We are very excited about this topic, but we understand that we may need to slow down today. And thank you, Tamer, for the reminder. Don't feel bad. Don't hesitate to just remind us, hey, you need to slow down a bit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. So I just I second what Andreas just said, and this is not supposed to be a stiff presentation from our side. So please interrupt us at any point. Just raise your hand, even unmute your mics, and just like Andreas did right now, just unmute your microphones and speak up and tell us, hey, I have a question here. We are here for you. So that's not supposed to be like a stiff presentation in a lecture type of a presentation. So please let us know whenever you have a question. Good. All right, let me start firstly with the so-called interactive notebooks and their usage as teaching materials. Now, I just have a link on the bottom of the slide here, just so you can get an idea how the live scripts look like. Now, live scripts is basically a computational platform where you can combine rich formatted text together with figures, embedded graphs, equations, and also executable code. So everything in one place. I guess many of you are already familiar with the standard coding in MATLAB, which is like the standard M files, where you can actually write MATLAB code and include some comments, right? I presume that most of you are already familiar with this. I was wondering if you can raise your hands and let us know how many of you are already familiar with the live scripts. That would be very useful at this point. You can just raise your hand on Teams and let us know how many of you are familiar with the live scripts. I think Dr. Amr is already chiming in. Dr. Tamer also. Okay, this is the expectation, honestly. So while I was teaching at the university before coming to MathWorks, I had no idea of the live scripts. And I would wish that somebody like myself from the future would have come to me to explain me about this, because this is a great platform for performing teaching and preparing teaching materials. Okay, good. You can lower your hands now if you don't need it anymore. Thank you so much. And let me start with an introduction to those materials. We are all familiar with the standard PDF or Word-based lecture notes, right? Even handwritten notes. How do these look like? Here, I'm having like a PDF from my own lecture where you can actually see a standard like static PDF handout. That's exactly what I'm providing to my students. Now, the question that arises here is, how are these graphs being produced? So, for example, you see those graphs down here, right? The question is like, how do we produce those graphs? And the answer is the following. We typically have a low-level computer language or even high-level computer language. In this case, it was used like a standard C++ code to actually produce those graphs. And afterwards, we are using typically some high-level language, computer language, such as MATLAB, Python, Julia, or whatever else you want to call it. And we actually create those graphs that we actually then take and we embed it in our materials. Now, what you see here is that we have 3 different platforms to work together in order for us to create those materials. You can already tell that that's not an optimal way, because we need to actually switch platforms and we have to make sure that there is compatibility between all these platforms. And that's not always the case, right? What we want to propose to you right now is the use of the so-called MATLAB Live Editor. It's already on your license. You don't need to pay anything extra. Please just go ahead and use it. And as you can see here on the right-hand side, it is the equivalent to what you see on the left-hand side, but right now everything is in one platform. So both the presentation of the materials, the underlying code that is needed to produce those graphs, and the graphs themselves are all in one place. Please let me know if I'm speaking too fast. I hope that's not the case, but I know as a person that I'm talking generally very fast. So I hope that you can follow. Otherwise, please feel free to interrupt me. That's what we want to actually here propose to you. Please go away from the traditional approach, if I may say, or you have everything in different places, and try to unify everything in one place. And that's the so-called MATLAB Live Editor. That's what you see on the right-hand side of the slide here. Good. And let me now give you a small walkthrough of how I'm using those materials for my own lecture activities. Here you see a GIF that I have created, and I would like to demonstrate to you how this live editor and the live scripts look like. Now, you see here that this looks exactly like a normal lecture note materials, right? We have like we have the list of content there, and then we have also chapters. This is like some figures that we embedded into the script. And up until this point, I don't think you see any difference to standard lecture materials. But please take a look here. We have sliders. We have also drop-down lists that we can use, so it becomes interactive for our students. And please check what I'm doing right now. I'm just changing a slider, and look at the graph. The graph is actually changing. Why is the graph changing? Because behind that, we have code that is running, and the code is written by us in the very same script. There is no other platform. And here you see another example where I'm using a drop-down list to do the whole studies. So I can run the script as you would run normally a MATLAB file, and afterwards, I have the ability to go and change here a drop-down list, change my interpolation in this case, and see what happens to the results. You see that the script is actually running because there's code on the background. So I hope that this convinces you that this is a very a remarkable, let's say, platform that you can actually combine a lot of things together to achieve the desirable result. Again, I'm using the sliders here to perform some studies, and you see that the output here changes as well. And you can imagine, actually, now I'm going to actually real quick, that's all I want to show you here, but you can imagine that the students, during your own lecture, they're able to actually change those sliders while you're actually presenting, and that gives them a lot of motivation to actually follow the classroom and not get sleepy or bored. Not that this shouldn't mean that your lecture is boring, but of course, if students don't have the ability to work with the materials, this already creates some sort of strain on their end. Good. I hope that I was able to motivate you. Yes, Andreas.
Andreas, thanks. I think your speed is completely fine. Please keep doing that. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
For people, for professors today who have never opened, let's say, a live script using the live editor, where can they find that?
That's a great question. So let me just real quick show you. I'm going to have to go back here and let me open MATLAB actually.
Because I think it is part of the up-to-date MATLAB release, right? There's nothing.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
So thank you very much for the question, Andreas, and for chiming in. That's important. So if you want to, let me start from the basics. So far, you probably know already that this is a command window where you can actually type commands. So 1 + 1 is equal to 2. And you already know that you can create a normal M file using the button here, new script. So that's going to be a normal M file where you can write some comments. This is a comment. And underneath that, you can actually write a MATLAB command. So variable 1 is equal to 1 + 1, right? That's a standard MATLAB editor. Now, to use the live editor, you need to use the button next to that. So not this one here. This is like the standard, sorry. This is standard like editor, but we need to use this one here, which is called the live script. So if you click on the live script, you will get a similar editor to what you got before. But right now, you will see that you have a line splitting the actual code part to the output part, which means here I can, I think in the chat, there is a message that I cannot be heard. Can you please verify whether you can hear me or there's some issue there?
I can hear you very well. If there is an issue and if the others can hear you, it may help to just drop off and log in again. If you really have an issue, then it may be on your side rather than on ours.
Exactly.
It's a good, Andrea. The voice is good.
I can hear you
great.
too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I did the same thing as I did before, but right now, instead of writing a comment using this symbol, the percent sign symbol, I just created a so-called text area where I could write my comment. And underneath that, I can provide in this gray area the code that I want to execute. So if I run this one here, please note that the actual output is on the right-hand side, so it's directly within the script. This is not something you see in the normal code files, MATLAB code files. And moreover, here we can also write equations using LaTeX format. So I'm just showing you here how to open the LaTeX editor, and you can write here, for example, I'm just going to write something interesting here. Integral from, I don't know, omega inside I will select square. So you can see that I can actually write rich formatted text alongside with equations and then have my code down below. That's the MATLAB Live editor. And Andreas, again, many thanks for pointing that out. And now I would like to actually go to the flipped classroom, not to lose time. So flipped classroom is actually one of the very modern, quite modern approaches to teaching, where we don't have like the standard approach where we show up in the lecture and we provide to the students one standard type of a lecture, and the students need to listen into this lecture and then ask questions afterwards. But rather, we record ourselves doing the lecture and we provide it on or in Moodle as pre-recorded for the students to study it themselves. And let me now start with this one here.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Andrea, we have one question.
Mr. Andreas, I have a question, please, about it seems that all MATLAB is based on coding. Is it right, or I'm missing something?
That's a good question. Thank you so much for bringing it up. This will actually deviate us a little bit from the presentation, but I would like to spend a few words about this. So MATLAB is not just a coding environment. It's a development. You can call it a development platform. So you can actually code if you want. You can do whatever fancy things you want to code. Otherwise, you can also use the MATLAB apps. So you see this tab here. There is the home tab. There is the plots tab, and then there is the apps tab. This one.
Okay.
Here. And in the apps tab, you can use many apps from different disciplines. For example, you can use an app from the curve feeder, optimization, or even image processing. So, or let's put it better said. Let me just try that again. From the machine learning and deep learning domain. So you can actually use the classification learner, where you can use the machine learning techniques interactively without writing code. So these are the so-called low code, no code approaches. Does it answer the question?
It's a little bit an answer satisfying me, but I think the complicated functions are based on coding, which I found a little bit more difficult for a lot of us, especially we are academics in different faculties other than computer science, engineering, and so on. So being an ordinary use, how can I get the best of MATLAB application? That's what I mean from my question. Actually, as I said before, I'd like to use it for complex graphics, but I thought it would be more easier, or I'll find just icons to use to produce what I want to explain in the graphs. It's okay. I'm following you to know more about. Okay, let me ask another question, please. Is it important for me as a beginner to know about coding or not?
Okay, that's a great question, actually. Thank you so much. Actually, you don't need to know coding. So you can use MATLAB without coding at all. We have apps to do things like, let me real quick show you. So I'm going to open up an app, which is the, let's see, which one should I open up? I'll open up the class, let me think, the regression learner, right? I'm going to open up this app. It has to do with AI, with like machine learning. It takes a few seconds to open up. Just bear with me. It shouldn't take extremely long though. Yeah, it's still loading.
It's okay. No
and please look at this app here. Like there is buttons everywhere to actually load your data. So you see, I use this open button, and then afterwards you can use all these buttons to run your perform your study. You don't need to write any code at all. So that's what I said before. MATLAB is a development platform. It's not a coding platform.
Okay.
So you can actually do engineering without writing code at all. You don't need to write code. But if you want to write code, you can also write code. And
Okay.
guess what? You can also combine everything. So you can write
Uh-huh.
code and also use the interactive application. So everything, you can combine everything with each other. So, and actually, Mostafa, I know that this is actually something that is not clear, because when I was at the university, I also didn't know that. That's why Andreas and we are here, so that you reach out to us also afterwards and you tell us, hey, I have this application for my classroom. Can we have a call? We're going to have a call with you with great pleasure and explain you everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mustafa, if I may chime in, this software MATLAB is used quite extensively in the industry. I think we make over $1 billion each year just selling this to right. And the reason for that is because as a beginner, it's easy to get into MATLAB. You just need the basic of coding. You don't need an extensive knowledge.
Okay.
And then it's rather easy to then start producing functional code. It may not be the best code ever written, but it will get the job done. And if you are willing to spend a little time, for example, doing the MATLAB on-ramp, and then follow it up by the MATLAB fundamentals course, the online training, and reach out to us if you have questions and we can help you a bit. We can explain some of the functions that you will need, or maybe even some of the toolboxes. You will see that once you master like these very, very basic steps that don't take that much to get into, you will be able to actually get really good results really, really fast. And that is the one advantage I think MATLAB has when compared to some of the other programming languages on the market. And for now, I would suggest to keep this conversation offline, to meet in a different format, just to check what your requirements are to answer your questions in detail.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Dr. Mustafa, we can prepare a session about introduction to MATLAB for our college if you need. And it is a very simple CAD tool, but it not need any other coding, complex coding. But you don't need to define any variables or anything. You can write 1 + 1 equal to MATLAB is a CAD tool, not a programming tool. Some of other professional things you can prepare drawings and graphs with good to include in your research papers, and it is a clear graphs you can obtain from MATLAB, and we have license for our university, so we can prepare some sessions or one session about the introduction to MATLAB. It is not a difficult thing. Thank you for you.
Thank you, Dr. Tamer. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
thank you.
Perfect.
That's great.
All right. Let me just go now to the flipped classroom that I was talking about before. And I would like to exemplify here how Grader, the tool, MATLAB Grader, can be used to actually achieve such kind of advanced teaching techniques. Oops, here I have it in German, the title. Sorry for that. Okay, so on the left-hand side, you see a picture that I took actually from the Texas University. I found it quite nice, which shows how the standard classroom format looks like. Now, in this case, we actually tell students in advance to look over the materials here. And afterwards, we have a class in person. And after the lecture is done, we expect the students to work on a homework. And then this cycle goes on and on and on forward. On the contrary, the flipped classroom format actually entails the following. The students are supposed to prepare for the classroom by themselves in advance. So here you see that the whole lecture is being mapped into the screen of the student, right? So the student is able to study this the pre-recorded lecture on their own pace. And afterwards, when they are done with that, in person in the classroom, the students are sitting down with their instructors or their professors and lecturers, and they're actually discussing the difficulties they have. And only afterwards they can actually sit down again and discuss with our colleagues of theirs in the next phase of this flipped classroom, where they're able to work independently of the problems we provide them as teachers, actually. So they don't need to do like that. I hope you can see now the difference between the standard format and the flipped classroom. In the flipped classroom, the students have more flexibility to work independently on both the lecture and the auto-graded exercises. That's the most important thing. And now I would like to mention a few of the advantages of this flipped classroom. Now, the students have access to pre-recorded lectures, as I said before. The students can follow the lecture units in their own pace, so they don't have to be in the classroom in a pre-specified time slot and so on and so forth. The students can work on the automatically graded assignments, again on their own pace. So it is quite important, because if you think about the exercise that we may give them that are written on a piece of paper, this means that the students they will need our feedback, and that means they need to depend on us. Now we try to make them independent, not wait to need us at all, meaning us, the lecturers or the professors, and that's quite beneficial for their own learning outcomes. And finally, the lecture units can be dedicated for Q&A to focus on the weaknesses of the students. We don't need anymore to come to the classroom and tell them the same things again and again. We just go to the classroom and we address their most burning questions. I hope I convinced you about like the flipped classroom and its benefit in comparison to the standard like lecture format. There's another point that I forgot. The students can work on the remaining tasks on their own pace, of course, and also with their students or their peers. And what I would like to show you here, please bear with me, this is the Moodle platform of my own lecture at the Technical University of Munich. Okay, so that's my own Moodle, the Moodle that the University of Munich has. This is not different than yours. I think there is a question in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. It may be a good point to take the question before you continue. Yeah.
May I ask you, Mr. Andrea, now we are talking about how to use MATLAB in classroom and giving lectures and so on. So is this possible to use it as well in giving exams and auto correction for these exams, especially for a large number of students?
Yes. Thank you so much for the question. A great question. You can do it. And not only you can do it, I highly recommend you doing that. Because in my classroom, I have 100 or more students, and I don't want to sit down weeks long and correct their papers. I want that this is done automatically. And yes, you can do this. Let's take that question also offline, because I can show you other tools that you can use together with a MATLAB grader in Moodle to make the whole process more seamless. But this is not part of today's workshop, I would say. If you don't mind, let's take that offline. But yes, you can do it. Okay, so perfect. I just wanted to show you how this looks like in my case. So firstly, you see some part, which is the place where I provide the interactive teaching materials of the chapter. So at the beginning, I'm providing some live scripts that are stored on MATLAB Online, or the so-called MATLAB Drive. So you can, I think Andreas talked about it in the introduction, but you're entitled to use MATLAB Online, which is actually an online version of MATLAB, where you don't have to have anything stored on your computer. And you can easily share that with your students by getting links. So your students can access those live scripts that you create directly on their browser without the need of having them downloaded on their computer if they don't have to do so. And here you also see down below that I'm providing also like the standard PDF handouts that I spoke about before. The next thing that I'm providing, whatever you see, by the way, in this slide, you can do the same thing on your own Moodle platform, right? That actually has prepared for you. So you can do the exact same thing there. Afterwards, you see that I'm providing the pre-recorded lecture of the chapter. In my case, I do upload the recording on YouTube, and then from YouTube, I make it like an unlisted video, which means like nobody can actually find the video unless I provide them with a link. And afterwards, you can embed that link into Moodle, and the students can watch the video in their Moodle instance. Now, if you have data protection and other guidelines at the Egyptian Russian University, you may want to upload the recording on an own server, but this becomes a little bit out of hand, so I won't talk about this here. I personally upload my recordings on YouTube. I make them unlisted, nobody can find them, and then I provide the link in Moodle. And afterwards, I also provide the so-called auto-graded exercise of the chapter using MATLAB Grader. And this is what you see down here. And we're going to get back to this point in a second. And lastly, I do some additional thing here, which I don't know if you want to do, if you would find it also beneficial. But when I have the practical lab session with the students, where I'm discussing is the Q&A session that I spoke about before, I actually also record that, and I also upload that into Moodle. That's a little bit of work on yours, on our end, I would say, but the students highly appreciate it. So depending on your methodologies and your time, you may consider doing that as well. Moodle gives you a lot of possibilities to do a lot of really nice things. Okay, now I would like to show you how this looks like on my end, how I'm using the tools for my own use in my classroom. I presume you don't really listen to the audio, am I correct? I may have to actually. Can you listen to the audio?
It's audible, but it's barely audible. I think you just need to not rely on the sound here.
Okay, let me just share again. I think I need to share with voiceover. Yes, it's true. All right, so I'm going to play that again from the beginning. I'm just pausing it. You see that by default, I have a tendency to speak very fast. I'm sorry for that. So I'm adjusting my speed right now. You see that I'm using here the MATLAB Live Editor on the left-hand side. I'm using the so-called like dark mode. You know, MATLAB gives you also the dark mode possibility, so you know. And on the right-hand side here, I'm using the standard like MATLAB coding platform. Okay, I don't want to spend more time on that. Just so you get the idea how I'm using the live scripts within the lecture just to motivate the students. And also they have the access to the materials themselves and they can also use it, right? Good. Now I also did a survey after the lecture and I'm running this lecture already for like 3 years. So I have, as you can see here, I have results of the survey for 3 different years, consecutive years. And as you can see here, I'm asking the students about the effectiveness of the lecture, where you can see this like blue curve that is after joining the course and the red curve is before joining the course. The question is, how do they feel about the content? Did they feel that there was an improvement? And if yes, how much? And you can see that over the years, the improvement, the average improvement that I noticed is about like, is actually increasing over time. And and actually in year 2024, you can see that it's already beyond 1.5 points when we scale it from 1 to 5, which is quite considerable. The other thing that I asked here the students is to speak about the effectiveness of the interactive teaching materials using the MATLAB Live Editor. And here you see again that actually just to comprehend these graphs better, the blue curve should be always below the red curve. That is good because I'm actually having here the cumulative distribution. So it means that like whenever the blue curve is below the red curve, it means it's good. I get a good feedback. And that's what you see over the years again, that there is again an improvement which is quite considerable. And so the students really enjoy those MATLAB live scripts, right? That's the point here. And afterwards, I also asked the students, how do they feel about this hybrid organization of the lecture? Because I'm providing the lectures both pre-recorded, then I'm giving them also auto-graded exercises and so on and so forth. And again, you can see here over the years that the students actually do prefer the virtual part of the lecture. They like the lecture to be virtual so that they have actually the possibility to attend it on their own pace. And then I also asked the students what they feel about the programming language of choice. Again, I'm super happy to see that the vast majority prefers MATLAB and Python, but primarily MATLAB. And a very small minority of students preferred having like C or C++ or Fortran or whatever else similar to that. And the last thing that I asked the students about to tell me is what do they feel that it's the most important part of the lecture. And most of them, and again, I'm displaying those results over the 3 years from 2022 to 2024. And if you see over the years, most of the students say that the actual examples and exercises are the most important part of the lecture, which is actually followed by the lecture content itself, right? which is quite impressive. It means that actually they really like working with the MATLAB grader and the MATLAB live editor. That's quite important. Good. That brings me now to the auto grading using MATLAB grader, which is actually the central part of today's presentation, and it took me some time to reach to this point. Is there any question up to here? Do you want to ask anything? Yep, there is a question.
May I ask just about the time of our workshop today, because I'm worried about the time. We exceeded 1 hour and 10 minutes, so I need to know the remaining time of this lecture, because I may have some other things to do. Thank you.
Right. The workshop was planned for 1.5 hours, so we have another 20 minutes. And if we have topics that we want to discuss still, we can make another session, or we can also have schedule another meeting just with anybody of you that's interested.
The lecture is recorded, so any of our professor need to leave, he can attend by listen to the recorded video. Thank you.
Great point, Tamer. Exactly. And I can stay longer if you need to do so.
You will send the link on the group, Mr. Tamer?
Yes, Dr. Ahmed. When we finish our lecture, we can send and share the link for others.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, now we are starting with the most fascinating part of the workshop today, which is auto grading using MATLAB grader. Good. This will, to motivate you, I will start with the standard grading approaches. So this actually, what you see on the left-hand side, is how traditionally lecturers and professors grade student exercises. And let me go through this loop and explain you the underlying most important properties. So firstly, we have a manual evaluation of the exercises. So manual means that the lecturer, the professor, you yourself, you need to sit down and use from your time to grade the questions, to evaluate it. That's already a lot of time, by the way. The next thing is that we actually need to provide individual feedback to each of the students, because we are correcting by hand each of the exercises. And actually, the worst of that is not only that the waste of your time. It's not a waste, but using your time so in this manner. The most important thing here is that the students need to wait for some time until you have finished the grading, right? And the students in this period of time, they haven't gotten any feedback, which means that they are actually in dark with respect to their performance. And that causes confusion. So we are actually missing the learning outcome. That's the most important thing. And of course, we all have the same challenges. We have limited resources and teaching assistants to be able to provide timely feedback, right? I don't know how many teaching assistants you have on your departments, but in my case, I have nobody to support me in my department at the university, which means that I don't have the capacity to correct all those exercises by myself. And actually, that's the outcome of all this, is that it is hard, if not impossible, to get the weekly progress. So we actually deliver a lecture and we don't know whether our students have actually understood it. And that's quite important. So if we want to keep our lectures high quality, we need to make sure that the learning outcomes from each lecture unit are satisfied. I hope I convinced you that the standard grading approach is not the state of the art, and at least it's not optimized yet. Again, I have a German title. Sorry for this again. Just to have the slides also in German. So in this case, I'm going to show you how to use MATLAB Grader to perform auto grading using our online platforms. And for this, I have another sketch on the right-hand side of the screen, where you can see the same loop that we had before, but now things are automated, which means that the students can submit their solution on their homes when they're finished with the exercise. They receive immediate feedback. They don't need to wait for us to correct their papers. They just their papers get corrected automatically. And thus, they can actually correct or improve their solution based on the feedback they receive from the auto-graded exercise, and therefore learn. And that actually leads us to achieve the satisfaction of the learning outcomes from each lecture unit. Okay, some important properties of the auto grading here. We are, again, as I said before, the grading and provision of feedback is being automated. So you don't need to be in that loop. You can use this time to actually either improve the lecture, make more exercises, I don't know, have a nice lunch or a nice dinner, whatever you want. You don't need to sit down and correct papers, right? You also have the ability to get real-time statistics, right? So you can know at each point in time how your classroom is performing. That's not possible when you're doing this by hand and you're correcting papers by hand. You don't know at each point in time how your classroom is overall performing. And actually, that's also a quite important property. What Andreas and I are proposing to you is a cloud-based approach, where you don't need to install and maintain any software. You just get this, you have Grader, it's available to you at the Egyptian Russian University. You just use it. You don't need to do anything else. It's a cloud-based approach. You don't even need to install a software locally. I don't know how many of you already heard about those, or if you're aware, depending on your educational background, you may have heard of the so-called formative and summative assessments. Now, these are not by default possible, especially when we are correcting papers by hand. But when you have a digital tool like Grader to assist you with this process, you can actually clearly use and leverage the so-called formative and summative assessments. Now, the formative assessment means that you can formally assess the learning outcomes of each of your learning units, whereas the summative assessment is what was said before about the final examinations, right? So summative assessment is pretty clear. The formative assessment is not so easy to achieve if you don't have a digital tool to assist you with the grading. And finally, I just wrote that here because I find it quite important. Anytime you find an issue on your reference solution, and let us ask ourselves, who has never found such an issue, right? Every time I provide an exercise to my students, especially if it's the first time that I create the exercise, there are mistakes in the exercise. And the students, because you have a lot of students, they find it. And when they find it, they're actually not happy. And they write to you and to me and to their instructors, and they ask them to actually improve the exercise. And guess now what? If you really need to correct the reference solution, you need to rescore all the exercises, and that could actually cause you immense amount of effort. Therefore, I just want to highlight here that Grader allows you to rescore all the solutions without any extra effort. Okay, now I would like to jump into the Grader in use, and I would like to show you the learner's view. So on the left-hand side, we have an exercise. Again, the exercise is in German, but I have also one in English, which I want to show you shortly. In this case, that you see again that the description of the exercise is quite advisable, because we have again rich formatted text, we have equations, and we have also graphs together. And on the right-hand side here, you see how the code editor and the automated feedback looks like. That's exactly what the students see. And I would like now to actually go to Moodle, and I would like to ask Hazem whether the participants of today's workshop have access to this course, and whether they can also open it on their end.
Yes, most of our staff
All of you access
Okay.
this class and this subject.
Perfect. So I would like to ask you to now open on your open up Moodle at the Egyptian Russian University, and please navigate to this course that Hazem prepared for you, and you should be added there. And just do me a favor. I'm going to switch my role to a student. Please find this exercise here, which is called Set up and use a linear regression model for the prediction of a gas consumption.
Please, Andrea, I will talk to our professor. The subject is called training. If you go to your account, the course is called training. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Tamer. Can you please give me a thumbs up if you found it already, just so I know where we are? Whenever, just please take your time, but let us know. by raising your hand on Teams or just a thumbs up.
You need to press the link setup and use a linear regression.
Exactly. I just want to know if everybody's there, or some of the participants are already at this place.
Press now.
And Andreas, in the interest of time, people can try to follow you, but if you need to just demonstrate where they can find it, if you can do that for them, it may just save a little bit of time.
Okay. All right. So I assume that, anyways, we have the recording actually, so this is not a problem. You can also follow that up later if you want. Now, please use this link here, set up and use a linear regression model for the prediction of the gas consumption. Just click on that link, please, and you are going to be brought up into the grader. Hazem, I don't know how you registered the participants as teachers or as students. I'm not sure. Maybe you can clarify that. Tamer, are the participants registered as students or as teachers?
All of them student. All of them.
Okay,
student.
perfect. So you should be able to see the same thing as I'm seeing here. Again, here we have the diagram of the exercise.
The only teacher in this class, me and you.
Okay, awesome, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so here we have the actual description of the exercise. Now, it's written here that we have 4 MATLAB variables: the weight, the horsepower, the acceleration, and the miles per gallon for a set of cars. And the goal is to set up a regression model, which we will call here LM, that is leveraging those data and predicts the gas consumption. A linear regression model here is actually provided the equation that you need to set up the linear regression model. And this is an example of how this should look like in 3 dimensions, right? I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to go now to the tasks. So the first thing we want to do here is to convert the miles per gallon in a variable which is called miles per gallon. And we need to convert that, sorry, let me repeat that. So we have already the miles per gallon stored in this variable here, miles per gallon, and we want to convert this into kilometers per liter. And we want to store the result in the variable called kilometer per liter. Now, you see down here, we have the code editor, where you as students in this particular exercise, you need to provide your actual solution. I prepared the template to look like as follows. Please note that the lines of code that are gray, they have a gray background, like these ones here. You cannot edit it, so it's like fixed. And so here we can go to the comments, comment it out, and actually try to do the conversion, which means I'm going to type the name of the variable I had before, which is actually miles per gallon. And now we need to perform a conversion. Of course, you may not know by heart what the conversion factor is, and neither do I. Therefore, I'm going to multiply this by 0.2, okay? And now I will consider whether that solution is correct or wrong. But the students now have two options. Please note here what they can do. They can either run the script, which means like literally running their code using this particular code script, or they can actually submit their solution. The difference is that when they submit their solution, their code is going to be graded and they're going to receive an automated feedback. Whereas if they just run the script, then they just see the output that they get from their code file. They will see whether their code runs and whether the code has any syntax errors. This is what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to actually run the script and see what happens. So in this case, those variables, the miles per gallon, it is actually, and I'm talking about this variable here, it is just a vector. So it's just a vector. And therefore, if we multiply MATLAB a vector with a scalar, we get a vector. So the kilometers per liter, it's also a vector. And that's what we see down here, that the kilometers per liter is a vector of variables. You see there's some not a number here, and so on and so forth. Good. Let's say now that we are happy with this, I'm going to actually put a semicolon at the end of the line, and I'm going to run the script again, such that I don't get any output on my command window. And now there is no output. You see that there is no output written here just because I have added here a semicolon, just to make it clear. And now let's say that you are happy with the solution. You're going to go ahead and submit your solution with pressing on this submit button here. And once that is over, the grading process is over, you should be able to actually receive the automated feedback. And now you see for all the tests, actually all the tests have failed. That's not a surprise. However, we are interested now in the first test. And the first test has failed. And what it tells us here is that, well, look at that. The conversion factor for the conversion of miles per gallon to kilometers per liter is actually this one. It's not 0.2. That's the feedback that I coded for this particular exercise. So I'm going to copy that value here, and I'm going to paste it into this place here. Where's paste? Okay, I'm going to say Control V. So that's the factor here. And I'm going to submit again the solution because now I got the feedback. I read the feedback, and then I'm like, I want to actually reapply what I learned. And now you will see that the first test has passed. Okay, so the first test now is passed. And that's exactly what the students look here. They also look. Please feel free to try that out so you get an idea on how your students are going to be seeing these exercises. And let me go back to my slides now. The next thing on this grader is the instructor's view. And I hope that things here are in English, not in German. No, still in German. All right, so nevertheless, here you see the reference solution is actually the solution that it is expected for the students to achieve. And on the right-hand side, you see actually the learner template is exactly what the students can work on. And we are going to see that in a few seconds in English, not in German. What else I want to show you here is the statistics, right? So here you see some statistics that you get from your own classroom. In this case, this particular screenshot is from my actual classroom. And on the on the left-hand side here, we have the statistics from the whole classroom. And on the right-hand side, we have the statistics per student. So you have the ability to actually get either statistics for the whole classroom, just to get an idea if things are working as you expect them to work. And on the right-hand side, you see the statistics per student and per learner, actually. And last but not least, I would like to talk here about the tests. So how can you test? How can you create tests using MATLAB Grader? The first thing you can do is actually use an actual variable, the kilometer per liter. It's exactly what we saw before. Just by adding the variable itself, you can create a test. That's all about it. Then you can also define the feedback. Now, the feedback in this case, it says that the conversion factor for the conversion of the miles per gallon to kilometers per liter is this one. And this feedback is going to be asserted if the learner, your students basically, submit their own solution. All right. So that's what they will get. And let's say now that you have very fancy ideas and you want to do much more complicated tests, you want to test against strings and I don't know, like you want to make some conditional testing, then you can actually also use MATLAB code. So here you see an example of a MATLAB code that I wrote to test a figure, whether the data within a figure are correct. Quite important to mention, and I think also maybe Andreas mentioned that at the beginning, I'm not 100% sure, we are providing some sample problems that are made by ourselves. And these problems can be used directly for your own teaching needs. You see here, we have like courses from different exercises from different disciplines, like calculus, statistics, electric circuits, introduction to programming. I heard many of you are professors in computer science. We have dynamics, symbolic math toolbox, and so on and so forth. If you want to get access to these MATLAB Grader problems that we have already prepared, you need to reach out to us in our email addresses. So here I give you my email address. It's also on the chat. Please write us an email and let us know whether you want to have access to this exercise.
And the good news is, if you use the MATLAB Grader on Moodle, you will have automatic access to these problems. So it's already ready for you once you start using it. But as Andreas said, if you want to have access for this outside of Moodle, drop me a message. I'm happy to register you.
Very well said. Thank you, Andreas, for the addition.
Andrea, for our professors for ERU, we can access this link directly?
Yes.
Can you send a mail on chat?
I can send my email on chat.
I have done it already, so let me just answer.
So that's my mail. But the problems that Andreas just mentioned, introducing to programming, for example, the 111 example exercises that you can use, you have them already if you use MATLAB Grader in Moodle.
Exactly.
That's important to know.
Correct. All right, so in the interest of time, I think we are already at 1 minute over time. I'll stay a little bit longer just to finalize the workshop, and we are going to be also open for questions afterwards. Important is also that when using MATLAB Grader, you can also collaborate with other educators. And here you can register for any course that you develop. You can register lecturers in the desirable course. You can adjust the access at any time as needed. So you can use this field here to enter the email addresses of your colleagues that you want to collaborate with. And you can collaborate in the same exercise, of course. Right. And that brings me to the Moodle integrated version of MATLAB Grader. You already saw it actually, but I just want to show you from my own lecture how this looks like. Now here you see a problem on MATLAB Grader that is included into my own lecture activities at the Technical University of Munich. And on the right-hand side, what's quite important, quite impressive, is that the grades that you get, that your students get in Moodle, are automatically transferred into the so-called gradebook of Moodle. So here you get all the grades automatically. And I think this is relevant for the question we received previously that had to do with the examination, right? So if you perform an examination using the grader in Moodle, you will get all the grades directly into the gradebook of Moodle, not which is outside of Grader. So it's just Moodle here. And I just wanted to show you a quick video here about how I use Grader in my classroom. Bear with me. What I'm showing you here is the statistics that I get from the MATLAB Grader within Moodle. And you see here, I can tell from each solution that I receive from the students, their performance. The green check marks here mean that corresponding tasks have been solved, and the crosses, the red crosses here means basically that the particular tasks are not solved. And so I'm actually going through the exercise here, and I'm explaining to the students what I find to be remarkable. It's a mistake, and I explain them the mistake they did. So you see, we don't need to correct things manually by hand. Grader is doing that for us, basically, and this is very useful for the teaching. And again, I'm asking the survey that I provided before. I'm asking again the students, how do they feel about the use of computer-based platforms, the weekly exercise in MATLAB itself, and you can tell from the graphs here over the past 3 years that students really appreciate and they really enjoy working with this MATLAB Grader platform and the underlying exercises. And this is actually brings me sort of towards the end, where here I'm showing you what I provided you with on your Moodle page, where you can actually work also independently. And just to close the loop here at the beginning, let me actually go back to Moodle at your university. You will see that here on top, there is the MATLAB on-ramp. This is what was shown before by Tamer. It's actually this online training. You can please feel free to complete it if you're beginners in MATLAB. Afterwards, I have a video, which is to learn how to fit a linear regression model in MATLAB. As I said before, the example that I prepared for you today has to do with linear regression and machine learning, so it could be quite useful for you. So please watch the recording. You can do it directly within the Moodle page here. And afterwards, you can try to solve this exercise yourself if you want. And that being said, let me see what else I have here. There's a summary. I'm going to skip that for this time being. And what else I want to show you here, bear with me, is going to be what Andreas said before. So I showed you previously Moodle. So that's the Moodle page where we are including this auto-graded exercise, but we have our own so-called hosted version. It's called the MATLAB Grader of grader.mathworks.com. I put the link already in the chat before. I will do it again if you want. But the idea here is that you're encouraged to create your MATLAB Grader problems using this MathWorks hosted Grader platform. And when you want to include those problems into Moodle, you should actually do it directly within Moodle. And let me demonstrate that. if I have 1 or 2 more minutes. So here I'm going to switch my role back to my normal role. In your case, you're added into the course as students, Tamer already said. But if you make your own course and you want to include your own MATLAB Creator exercise, you actually need to navigate to the course. I'm going to go to this one here. I have to enable the edit mode here. You need to do the same. So the edit mode is up here, right? You just need to enable the edit mode here. And afterwards here, you can select this add activity or resource. And here you will find the MATLAB grader. So LTI 1.1.3, you just click on that and you say, my own MATLAB grader exercise. You call it as you wish. And then you don't need to bother yourself with anything else. This is already taken care of from Tamer and Hazem, so you don't need to take care of that. You can say save and display here. And now you can ask, it always has to be open in a new window. That's our new interface. And afterwards, you will be presented with this view here, where you can select a problem from the so-called problem chooser. I'm already logged in using my MathWorks credentials. You will have to do the same thing, obviously. And here you see I have a few courses. So I have also customer demos. Demos is the one I took from before. And there is also some examples. I can copy this, my first script problem or whatever else. I already copied that here. Maybe we can take another problem, for example, from the general MathWorks library that I spoke about before. So these are my courses. This is the MathWorks collection here. And I'm going to select from, let's take the introduction to programming, maybe introduction, and I'm going to take the math expression here, copy. So now if you open your the Moodle page of the course that you're added at, you should be able to find this course that I just added. So I'm going to go to this particular example here, and you will see that down below you have this my own MATLAB grader exercise, and if you open it up, you will see the same exercise as before. Before I conclude today's workshop, I would like to also show you this view here, which is from the hosted version of MATLAB Grader. And I would like to ask you to provide me with your email addresses in the chat. If you want to get access to this problem that I just created, and so that you don't only see it as a learner, but you also see it as an instructor. So you see this is exactly what Andreas showed at the beginning. Here I can register people as learners or instructors. I would like at this point to register you as instructors so you can actually see the content and the tests. So please feel free to actually add your email addresses in the chat if you're interested to get access to this one here.
Okay. I think, Andreas, that's most from your side about Grader for now. If people are still with us, we have the opportunity to ask some questions and to get some answers about this. Again, the Grader is a tool which may need a little bit of figuring out. It's easier once you just tried it out 1 or 2 times, you understand it. But yeah, if there are any questions that are immediately on your mind, we have the option to talk about this now.
Exactly. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you very much.
Maybe Dr. Amr not can access this course because he is from outside the ERU, or he can?
She can, anybody can. Just give me your email address. So that's all I need.
Okay.
Thanks.
And as Andrea said, we are here, staying here for a few minutes more. If you have any questions, please chime in.
I think there's a question from Dr. Amr.
I would like to thank Dr. Andreas for this great presentation. I would like to ask, can I do this for other courses? Not, I see you show calculus. I want to see how to make MATLAB Grader for other courses, not in programming, such as calculus, as you mentioned. Can you present us how to make this for other courses, not programming?
Andreas, do you want to take that question?
Dr. Ammer, quite frankly, the examples that Andreas showed were from his own experiences. It was meant to give a little bit of, a perspective on how to use the tool. It is very hard for us to just out of the blue tell you how your lesson benefits best from Grader. It's really hard to do because we don't know what you want to do, which fields you're working in. Can you give an example of what you want to do? And maybe we can have a look, for example, in some of the example problems that exist already. We can show you maybe what fits. And again, as Andreas, and the other aspect to that question is, Andreas Apostolatus said in the beginning, if you have a statement or a problem that you created for your students, we are happy to show you maybe in a different call or maybe via email how you can translate this problem that you already have into a MATLAB Grader problem. We are happy to help you with that as well. So can you please elaborate a bit on what you want to do?
Okay, I would like to pass to exercise, for example, about an example of math problem that student can solve it in steps, and MATLAB Grader can actually grade these steps. For example, I give him an problem in math. They can write an equations or steps for solving this question, and MATLAB Grader can check they write it wrong without seeing any coding, because this course is interested in math, for example. This is what I want to say.
Andreas, could you maybe show how to just either where to find some of those math examples, or maybe even how to add the problem and what is necessary to help the students not to use MATLAB, not to code?
Please, Andrea,
Yeah.
one to for me. يا ريت يا جماعة في ريسبونس استبيان موجود على الشات. يا ريت الكل يملاه معلش بعد إذنكم، عشان ممكن إن شاء الله ربنا يسهل، ممكن للحضور بس ممكن يبقى في شهادات، فهنشوف الدنيا فيها إيه. فيا ريت معلش نملى الاستبيان. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. You can continue.
Right. Andreas, I don't know if I got the question correct. So
no, can you just the question was, hey, I want to do something in math. I have a math statement and I want to use MATLAB Grader for autocorrecting this problem, but my students should not code a lot. Is there something that MATLAB Grader can help me with? And I think the answer to that is yes, right? And maybe you can just showcase how this could look like, or give some ideas on how students who shouldn't code a lot can just maybe use a LaTeX code to solve a statement. I think that is something.
Yeah. All right.
That's possible, right?
Let me just add another problem here. I'm going to use one from the sample MathWorks problems just to make things a little bit more simple. And here I'm going to use from Calculus 1, finding the inverse of a function. Okay, I'm going to use that one here. And by the way, I'm adding you also in the course, all of you that are giving me now the email addresses, and you can also try it on your end. Exactly what I'm doing right now, you can do the same thing. Now I'm going I have this exercise here, and there is another amazing feature that's quite new actually. So it's a great opportunity to present it for you. I'm going to switch to the so-called learner preview, this button here. So whenever you create actually a problem on MATLAB Grader, you can always test it from the student's point of view, right? That makes a lot of sense. So in this case, I'm gonna hit the learner preview button, and now we're gonna be presented with a view that the students have. By the way, here you have the option, the student has the option to open up this problem on MATLAB Online. They don't need to work on this problem in this view that you just saw, right? So that's much better. I'm gonna click on this button here. I will say continue to MATLAB Online. And now you're going to be presented with a live scripts, this MATLAB live editor that I was speaking about at the beginning of my workshop, right? Give it a second to open up. So that's going to see it here. It takes a few seconds to load up. All right. So on the left-hand side, you see the description, right, of the problem. And on the right-hand side, you have this live script. Now, as Andrea said, in this case, the first question says, define the symbolic function f of x corresponding to the formula above. And the formula above is this one here, right? Let's give it a try. So we're going to write here f of x is equal to 2 times x minus 4 divided by x minus 1. How much time did I spend on doing that? Imagine the students. It's not a big deal, right? I just wrote this line of code. And now I can actually, I need to comment out those 2 lines of code so that it runs. Otherwise, it will fail. And I'm going to submit. I'm going to press the submit button here. And hopefully, the first question is going to pass. It didn't pass, actually. So I need to see. What is it? Okay. So the problem here is that we actually need to define the function f as the symbolic function. So I need to say, reset your solution, open your solution. Okay, I'm going to reset my solution. And well, because it's a symbolic function, you just need to say f of x here. But for this, I'm having a trouble now to type here. Let me just, I'm going to have to restart this. Okay, so give me a second here. Is this one here? I think that's the problem we're solving. No. An inverse function. I'm going to go back to this one here and let's see if I can open it again.
بعد إذنكم يا جماعة السيرفي لو سمحتوا عشان 3 دقايق بالظبط وهقفل السيرفي. شكرا.
السيرفي بيتطلب تسجيل دخول ولازم للايميل بتاع الجامعة الروسية يا دكتور تامر.
ثواني يا دكتور أحمد هشوفه ولو كده هعمل موديفاي حالا. ثواني.
I'm going to define the same function as before. Now I'm not using MATLAB online, just to demonstrate to you also that this can be done in the embedded editor as well. So it doesn't have to be there. I'm going to run this. There's an error. Let's see what the problem is here.
But you already see you already see what the students will, how the students will benefit from this process, because let's say they do a syntax error. They just see, oh, it may not even be related to your solution. You just put in something incorrectly, right? So that can already be motivating for the students, because they can just correct a mistaken syntax instantly, right? And see, okay, you know, it's.
لا دكتور أحمد مفتوح للكل. مفتوح للكل.
So actually, this is an interesting thing here. The error comes because, and that's important, I want to mention that, because my course does not include the symbolic math toolbox. So you have to, in this case, I forgot to add it. You need to go to, I need to go to the course and edit it. And afterwards, I need to say here, I think I need to go to, let's see where I have to go, to the course itself, not to the assignment. And here, I need to edit the assignment, the whole assignment. And you see here, I have only the statistics and machine learning toolbox. But I also, because I'm using like symbolic functions, I need to say symbolic math toolbox. And only now can I actually use symbolic functions. So that's important. So, you know, whenever you create a course, you need to also add the tools that you need for the course, right? I just wanted to have said it because that's important. So, Andreas, you were saying.
Oh, no, I wanted to just say that you already see how this can be helpful for the students. They instantly see the feedback. They say, okay, your solution is wrong, or you did just use the wrong syntax, which is huge for students because they don't need to wait for your feedback. You know, they can improve on their answer instantly.
Exactly.
So let's try one more time. If it's not working, I think that's fine.
Right. So this should work now. This will work. So I'm defining the same expression here as before, and you can see based on the question whether the students have to write a lot of code. The answer is no. I'm going to actually just run, or I can actually submit this one here. I suppose, let's see. There might be a mistake again, but I'm pretty confident that. Well, it's better to run it first, right? So before you do that, actually, it's a good idea to run it to see if it runs through. There was an error, so you just need to actually comment this one out so that it runs without an error. And there it goes. So I can submit it now. Okay, so important learning here is the following. If the code is not running, it's not going to be graded. Keep it in mind for your students as well. First, the code needs to be running without errors, and only after you can submit it. So it's a good thing that I have this live demonstration, so you see that pitfalls that you can fall into, and just to keep an eye open on that. So I hope this answers the question with respect to ease of applying like standard methods for simple expressions, not something complicated. Is there any other question we want to ask to address?
All right. If there are no questions, I would suggest we stop the recording. We have shared our contacts. If you are interested or if you need more input, please remember we have a MathWorks academic team that is very willing to respond to you directly, that is willing to give you more information, advice on how to apply the tools. Andreas Apostolatos is just one resource we have for you. Yeah, if you want to give it a go, teaching with MATLAB, we presented quite a lot of resources today. If you need a refresher, if you need a reminder, if you need additional materials, please do not hesitate to get back to us. We are very happy whenever professors reach out, because your students will benefit if you use these tools in a meaningful way.
Thank you to Andreas today for your great lectures, and thank you for your time. And we're happy to join this meeting for you, and very valued material and very valued lecture we obtained today. And we recommend this lecture again, and many events we can organize for because we need to deep in MATLAB for our college for different faculties of ERU. So maybe we can organize some sessions for especially for each of our faculties. Thank you, Andre.
Again, Tamer, again, Hazem, just drop us a mail. Hazem literally reached out to us last week, and we were able to accompany this meeting in a couple of days. We are really, really interested in helping your faculties.
Hazem is
All
a great engineer, and you are a very best friend for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and it was a great pleasure to be here today. So you have your email addresses. Please reach out to us anytime you need some help.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Good day.
Andreas,
Thanks.
please share your slides with Hazem, because he will be able to send it around together with the recording, right?
I will do so.
Yeah,
I will do so.
Perfect.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Enjoy.
Bye.
Good day. Good day. Goodbye. Thank you.